I'll never forget the moment I pressed that garage door remote and heard the soft mechanical hum as the door began to lower. Inside, trapped like a caged beast, sat Karen's enormous black SUV, a glossy, overbearing symbol of arrogance that had no business being there. I had just gotten home from work, ready to grab my hedge trimmer and maybe tidy up the yard a bit, when the door had rolled up to reveal this metallic intruder squatting right in the center of my garage. The engine was off. The doors were locked. No one was around. At first, I thought maybe I was seeing things. Then came confusion, disbelief, and finally, a slow-burning rage. Who in their right mind parks inside someone else's garage? I stood there, staring at it, probably for half a minute, as reality sank in. Then, without even realizing it, I made a decision that would change everything. I pressed that remote again and listened to the door seal shut, trapping her precious vehicle inside like a sardine in a can. Karen Mitchell, the infamous president of the Maple Grove Estates HOA, had officially crossed the line. For 3 long years, Karen had ruled our quiet suburban neighborhood with an iron fist and a laminated rule book. She was the self-proclaimed queen of compliance, wielding her clipboard like a royal scepter. She measured lawns with actual rulers, fined people for flower pots that didn't match the approved shade of terracotta, and even charged poor Mrs. Henderson $50 because her garden gnome was non-compliant with community aesthetic guidelines. To Karen, control wasn't a job, it was her calling, and she drove around in that glossy black SUV, the one now sitting in my garage, like it was her chariot, even had vanity plates that read HOA Pres. She'd cruise the neighborhood like a bounty hunter for petty rule breakers, snapping photos and writing violations with a smirk. My run-in with her had started 2 weeks earlier, over something as innocent as a decorative mailbox. I'd installed a sleek wrought iron post with matching numbers, the kind that made the house look elegant and classic. It even boosted curb appeal, but according to Karen, it wasn't pre-approved. Within 24 hours, she had slapped me with a violation notice demanding I replace it with a bland, standard-issue mailbox within 72 hours. When I explained, politely at first, that the mailbox met postal service requirements and actually improved property value, that's when Karen decided I was her new project. From that point on, she was relentless. She measured my grass at 6 different spots, took photos of my trash bins from multiple angles, counted my porch decorations like she was doing a census. Every time I looked out my window, there she was, lurking, inspecting, documenting. Then came that Tuesday afternoon. I was out back watering my plants when I heard a car door slam in my driveway. I peered through the kitchen window just in time to see Karen marching toward my front door, clipboard in one hand, measuring tape in the other. But instead of knocking or ringing the bell like a normal person, she spotted that my garage door was open and simply drove her SUV right inside. Yes, inside. She parked it square in the middle of the garage, turned off the engine, and got out like she owned the place. I stood frozen, watching her from the window in disbelief as she began her inspection. For the next 15 minutes, Karen walked around my garage taking photos of my lawnmower, my tool bench, even my recycling bins, muttering things about non-compliant storage practices. Then she started rummaging through boxes, checking my gardening tools, peeking into containers, jotting down notes as if she had every right in the world to snoop through my property. It was breathtaking, the sheer audacity of it. When she finally stepped out through the front of the garage to inspect my mulch beds, she didn't even bother moving her SUV. She just left it there, dead center, blocking the entire space where my car was supposed to go. I watched her for another 20 minutes as she prowled around my front yard, measuring plant distances, snapping photos of my landscaping, even lifting plant samples to the sunlight like a scientist analyzing evidence. She kept flipping through her rule book and scribbling notes with the seriousness of a detective at a crime scene. Meanwhile, her SUV sat snugly in my garage as if she were part of the family. When I returned home later that evening and found her car still sitting there, something in me just snapped. I'd been patient. I'd been respectful. I'd followed every proper channel. But this was too far. Standing in my driveway, staring at that shiny black SUV parked where my car should have been, I realized Karen had finally made a mistake big enough to matter. This wasn't about mailboxes or mulch anymore. This was trespassing. Pure and simple. I took out my phone, dialed 911, and calmly told the dispatcher, "Someone's parked their vehicle inside my garage without permission. I need an officer to come out and handle the situation." While I waited for the officers to arrive, I pulled up my home security feed on my phone. Sure enough, every second of Karen's little inspection had been caught in crystal clear, high-definition glory. Multiple angles, perfect lighting, irrefutable evidence of her trespassing. I couldn't help but feel a grim satisfaction knowing that her arrogance had finally been documented in 4K. About 20 minutes later, I heard that all-too-familiar sound, the sharp click of high heels stomping up my driveway. Karen was back, wearing her permanent scowl of righteous authority like armor. Her HOA badge gleamed on her chest like a sheriff's star, and she clutched her clipboard as if it were a legal document from the Supreme Court. The moment she noticed my garage door was closed, her expression twisted into outrage. She began pounding on it with her fist, shouting about property violations and community standards. I opened my front door just as she turned toward me, and instantly, like flipping a switch, she launched into one of her tirades. "You've been warned about your mulch," she barked. "This is an unapproved type and you're subject to a $500 fine for repeated landscaping infractions." Her voice rose higher with every word, trembling with that familiar fury of someone used to getting their way. Then she pointed her clipboard at me like it was a weapon. "Open that garage door immediately. I need to retrieve my vehicle and continue my inspection. You are interfering with official HOA business." The sheer audacity of that statement almost made me laugh. Karen continued, voice growing shriller, insisting that as HOA president she had full authority to inspect properties for compliance and that my refusal to cooperate was a violation of the bylaws. She ranted about legal action, emergency board meetings, daily fines, every threat in her arsenal. But I stayed perfectly calm. "Karen," I said evenly, "when exactly did I give you permission to park your car inside my garage?" That caught her off guard. She faltered for a second before stammering something about how it was temporarily necessary for her inspection duties. She even tried to make it sound noble, that I should be grateful she was maintaining such high community standards. That's when I decided to end the performance. I told her calmly and clearly that I had her entire intrusion recorded on my security system. Every photo she took, every box she opened, every minute her car sat in my garage. And, I added, the police were already on their way. The change in her expression was instant. The color drained from her face, her confident stance faltering as she realized the gravity of what she'd done. Within minutes, 2 patrol cars rolled up, Officers Rodriguez and Chan stepping out. They were professional, composed, and instantly assessing the situation. Karen, of course, rushed to intercept them, clutching her clipboard like a peace offering. "Good evening, officers," she began in her overly rehearsed tone. "I'm Karen Mitchell, president of the Maple Grove Estates HOA. I'm currently conducting a compliance inspection. This homeowner has unlawfully detained my vehicle and is interfering with community enforcement procedures." The officers exchanged a quick look, then turned to me for my version. I simply held up my phone and played the footage. There it was, Karen's SUV rolling into my garage, her stepping out, snooping through my things, taking photos, and then strolling out to my yard while leaving her car behind. The timestamp showed over an hour of trespassing, completely uninvited. Officer Rodriguez raised an eyebrow. "Ms. Mitchell," he asked, "did you have permission to enter this man's garage?" Karen's face flushed red. "Well, no, not explicitly," she stammered. "But as HOA president, I have the authority to ensure all properties remain in compliance with community." Officer Chan cut her off gently but firmly. "Ma'am, HOA authority doesn't give you the right to enter someone's private property without consent. Parking your vehicle inside someone's home, into even a garage, is trespassing. Depending on intent, it could also qualify as unlawful entry." Karen's posture stiffened. You could almost see the cracks forming in her composure. "That's absurd," she snapped. "Community standards are the backbone of this neighborhood. Without them, everything falls apart." The officers remained unmoved. And then, right when she should have backed down, Karen made her fatal mistake. She stepped toward Officer Rodriguez, finger extended, voice sharp with fury. "You clearly don't understand HOA law," she shouted. "If you don't make him open that garage right now, I'll have your badge. Do you hear me? I'll have your job." Rodriguez took a slow step back, expression calm but firm. "Ma'am, I need you to calm down." But Karen wasn't listening anymore. She was in full meltdown mode, yelling about bylaws, standards, and lawless homeowners, her voice echoing down the street. Finally, Officer Chan spoke up. "Ma'am, you need to step back. Right now!" When she refused, still shouting, still jabbing her finger at Rodriguez. "That was it." He reached for his cuffs. "Karen Mitchell," Officer Rodriguez said evenly, "you're under arrest for trespassing, harassment, and unauthorized use of private property." The silence that followed was electric. Her shouting cut off mid-sentence as he turned her around and began reading her Miranda rights. Her bravado crumbled into shock, then disbelief, then pleading. "You can't do this! I'm the HOA president," she cried. But it was over. Neighbors began peeking through their curtains, whispering from driveways as Karen, the self-proclaimed guardian of community order, was led to the patrol car, still clutching that ridiculous clipboard. Cameras clicked. Phones recorded. Justice, it seemed, had a perfect audience. By that evening, the story was on the local news. Footage of Karen's arrest, hair disheveled, expressions stunned, played over the headline, "HOA President Arrested for Trespassing After Power Dispute." The following day, the Maple Grove HOA Board held an emergency meeting. It wasn't even close. A unanimous vote to remove her from office, citing conduct unbecoming of a community leader. Her mugshot ran in the next morning's paper beside an article titled, "When HOA Power Goes Too Far." Overnight, Karen Mitchell became the poster child for everything wrong with overzealous homeowner associations. The court didn't go easy on her either. She was sentenced to 6 months probation, ordered to perform 200 hours of community service, and fined $1,500 in court costs. I'll never forget standing there in that courtroom, watching her face as the judge delivered the sentence. The once proud HOA president who ruled with a clipboard and a glare now looked small, powerless, and very, very human.